Welcome, dear viewers, to our series Back to School. A week ago today, we started making a season where we really, I can only say, entered the premiere class. And in this premiere class, we try to understand relationship problems, but also physical ailments from the psyche that manifest in the body. And today, we'd like to give you a key, dear viewers, so that you can learn about it at home too, and choose the key of this premiere class. And take a look and try to find solutions to problems by yourself. I have a doctor here. She was introduced to you in the intro, and I'm glad that she's back. Welcome, dear Beate Strittmatter. Welcome to us.
Thank you very much. I'm also happy to be here.
I'm wrong, it's Strittmatter. I said Meyer.
No problem. I've also been called Strittmatter and Strittmatter before.
I want to go right back to the topic again, because you told me the last time, for example, that it's practically written on the forehead of people who have a behaviour that they actually have taken from their childhood. And my can environment read it, so to speak. So how do they read that? Is there a quantum field somehow? How can you explain that? And that I exactly attract what I am showing? How can we imagine that?
I'll ask you something. Did it ever happen in life that there was someone who you really rejected, someone or even despised for something?
No, not really. Nothing comes to mind right now. The only thing is a bit in this corona phase. If you come to me with your elbow, it really annoys me. But that's just my personal opinion on this certain point of view.
It is interesting that the corona phase brings out everyone's personal issues.
Or a mask in front of the nose, and I can no longer see the face. It hurts me so much.
I wanted to use the example that if, for example, people constantly make themselves small because they think they're not worth much, they have to duck their head and so on. There are so many people you can feel that are making themselves small. They don't have to stand in the corner, they make themselves small. Their self-esteem says, I'm nobody, don't need to listen to me. I'll happily give you an example of my own that's coming to my mind right now. This charisma for me, it's like that, okay? It's written here. You look at someone, it's a good aphorism to tell the patient, it's written here. And I tell them that very freely, when I go on stage. And I come to the hotel at night where the seminar is, and just a few years ago we had courses with hundreds of participants, around 500, 600, and I'll get there, and I know for sure, I've been doing this for 36 years now, I know it's late, but I need to see the seminar room, I have to see the chairs, how far apart they are, where the camera is, where the work area is, and so on. We do live treatments there. I go to reception, I don't have to say anything. I come up and kindly ask to be allowed into the seminar room. It has never happened before that someone said, well, but the banquet isn't there and it's too late now. It has never happened in the seminar room that when I said the chairs should be like this and that someone wouldn't have arranged them at 6 in the morning. But there, I know for sure I'm the boss. I have to be the boss. I'm responsible. But let me go to a department store. In the cosmetics department, I just want to buy a little thing. I look around, the first saleswoman walks through me. The next one looks through me. When this first happened to me, I thought, what is this? Until I realised, okay, makeup is not really my thing. They are all more made up than I am. Maybe they all look better than me somehow. Or at least they think so, and I'm completely incompetent here. I don't even know how to open these things. I don't even know what a concealer is. I don't know anything. And when I realised that there, I thought, wow, the charisma is so strong.
They already knew that. You were actually in the wrong place.
Absolutely. At the opera ball, for example, you should look down on the crowd. Look at the crowd from above. You'll see people who stand alone, who are avoided by others.
Yeah, always.
They have the charisma. Just to stay away from me, I am a negative grump of this world. You feel that with all the fibres, you feel it. The charisma that someone has, what people think about themselves, for example, or who they are, is what the mirror is. It's incredible. I just need to ask, okay, what's that now? Your husband treats you so badly. Is he the asshole? Yes, a woman tells me. I want to break up anyway. My husband is such an asshole. I often ask, how is your relationship? Well, my husband, he's such an asshole. I'm going to split up anyway. It doesn't matter anymore how he is. Okay, and could you imagine that there's some topic of your own with your husband and that you take it with you into the next relationship? Really? Yeah, that's the point. I'm most interested in the relationship where someone says, I'm in my second marriage now, but it's all the same. My husband is just as aggressive as the previous one. Well, and who was aggressive before that? That is the sound of childhood. So someone else was assaulting before. That can be a teacher, that can be a parent, a legal guardian. And you choose this because it feels so familiar. When someone realises that they can step aside and say, okay, it's my topic, interesting. Another example from the administration. A patient, very, very clever, in the upscale administrative management of our state government. And every time she gets upset, because there's a woman called Helga, Helga is assigned to her as an assistant. But Helga boycotts her whenever she can, and in public meetings, Helga says, well, I don't know where you put it. I couldn't find it. Or, you said it very differently last time. So Helga makes papers disappear. Helga snubs her. Helga is the reason for her loss of energy. So I say, and you? What is she doing with you? Well, she does this and that to me. She snubs me. She trips me up. She's backstabbing. Okay, was there anyone who used to be like this? My sister, she was just like that. She did the same thing. She had chosen her sister again. There are two options here. You keep getting angry, or you say, okay, I'm repeating something here. It's not a coincidence that I met her, that she became my assistant. I told her you have a choice to say, yes, it is my story, and so that she can no longer annoy you, the knowledge alone is very relieving, so that she can no longer annoy you. You can, for example, when Helga comes, turn on your side and let everything that Helga says or does pass you. Imagine there is a layer of Teflon here. For the behaviour of Helga, everything runs off. Of course, you can go deeper and you can erase the memories of your sister, the hurt. This is, for example, trauma acupuncture, or all traumata can be resolved very well with EMDR. That is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. EMDR is a method that was developed in the USA for the Vietnam veterans, supported by the state. So it's something wonderful. Works through knocking noises and hand tapping. And the trauma can then be erased. You can do it through my ears too. But she is not that far yet, so she can say, well, when Helga comes so far, when Helga came, she took it all in on her radar like that, and then she catches everything Helga does to her. Then it is enough. Then she loses it completely. My first advice is, if you notice someone is annoying you, first take a look. Is it something that might have to do with you? For example, that you repeat something. Or is it from another chapter? Does it have to do with what you think of yourself? Like me in the department store. And when you know, okay, it's my topic, like that woman in the administration, when she comes, she sees, there is my sister. Interesting. That's one thing. And the other, don't use your radar. Ignore it. Make yourself slim. Let them pass by. These are the first aid measures in this case. If you notice there is something going on, something with my own topic, but it can also be something different. For example, a patient is coming to me, burnout again. I have that often. Burnout. She's annoyed with work, and I say, what's so bad about work? There are a couple of techniques that are so simple and they are so important. When you talk to someone, a friend or your partner, What exactly is it? Number 1, what exactly is it? Number 2, what does that do to you? Number 3, what does it remind you of? How would your colleague see it? What would your boss say? To this woman I say, what's the worst? What's the worst? It's never all of the work. The worst, she says, is a colleague. And then she says the colleague, and she is already starting to pump like that. And is complaining about the colleague, and my patient is overweight. Overweight people are often overweight because they need their place. She's not heavy enough herself. She needs to show it with her weight. It can be one of the reasons being overweight. The colleague, I say, what about the colleague? And then she has no more inhibitions. And then she says aloud, so the colleague, whenever she's achieved something, then she shows it, and then she brags about it, and then she gets loud, and then she gets praised, and so on and so on. And at some point I say to her, and what are you jealous of? How jealous? Jealous? Then you have to give people some time. Then she says, I would like to do that too. At home we weren't allowed to do it. We are good girls and quiet, and we are elegant, and we won't be loud, and we won't show that.
There we have it.
She sat there and was completely upset. She was completely upset. That was the point.
And did the penny drop for her? Did she understand it by herself? What she just said now?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what are we doing now? You weren't allowed to do that before, but you look at her and she shows you what you had to exclude. This is a subject that is almost not dealt with in psychology. The psychologists I know work little or not at all with it. That is the subject of shadows. C.G. Jung. C.G. Jung said that when something is not well suffered at home in upbringing, or you think that the parents might not like it, like with this woman, we are quiet, we don't show ourselves, then you cut that off from your personality. Here's your personality, and that's where you cut that off. It is locked in the cellar, so it is in the dark, in the shadows. That's where it should stay, so that we continue to, and we are back to the topic of belonging. If you don't belong, you get this fear of death. We have to belong to groups. Unless you're a perfect hermit who says, the trees are my friends, but that's rare. We need belonging, which is why this time now is so challenging. Social distance, face masks, all of this. And to belong, you sometimes cut a piece of your personality and lock it away. But it belongs to you, and it will come up at some point. Because it wants to be integrated. This is part of your soul. And it's not the black traits, like I'd like to kill my mother or my I don't know what. It's not that. But with her, it was just being loud, taking her place. She had locked that away. A few years ago, I was invited to speak at a major congress in Salzburg, and so was Rutger Dahlke. And he spoke before me, and I spoke directly after him. And we both had the same topic, and that was shadows. And then he said something that made me see another aspect. He says, when we are children, then we feel very quickly what the parents expect from us. We put all these properties on the counter. And what is not wanted, we put under the counter. There they are also in the shadow, and with that we belong in the parental home. And for children, it is, what do you think the most important thing that children need? Most important for little children, what do they need most? Choices are being cared for, love, belonging. What's the most important? What is the most important? What do you think?
I would have spontaneously said affection, love, of course.
Forget it. Belonging. Children have to belong. If I'd known before that babies cry because they're afraid that if you put them down, you might leave them. Babies take a while to be confident. Okay, they'll come back. Unfortunately, I didn't know that. I said, you have to stay there. That's modern upbringing. And if you scream, you'll see what happens, and I come back at a certain time. I wouldn't do it like that anymore today, but let's go back to this woman who has hidden a part of herself. Suddenly, she realised, it's not that bad when I show what I've done. No, on the contrary, do good things and talk about it. You're doing it for an employer. If I donate to Doctors Without Borders, which I do on a regular basis, then I don't shout it from the rooftops. But for the employer, you're doing it for them. They're happy when they hear what you've done. You can also make some noise. It's part of the business. Many women mistake work for home. With the family, and the boss quickly becomes daddy. And do you know the most important thing for women in the workplace? Most importantly, I'll give you choices again. To be acknowledged, salary, good working atmosphere.
Acknowledgement, right?
Yes, by the boss, acknowledgement. Right after that comes a good working atmosphere. And the salary is last. Women would even work for free, surely men too, when that recognition is there. And I've seen patients who have huge salaries and are not recognised. And they don't have a good climate and they quit. This woman started practicing. There are very, very clever people. She said, I don't really need any psychotherapy. I'll practice it myself now. And my first advice is, if you want to take your place, then take this hoop skirt here. There, the hoop skirt from back in the days. I was just in a hotel which used to be a castle, a palace. The ladies had those hoop skirts, you remember?
Yes, of course.
With those hoops below. Imagine you have this hoop skirt and you go with the hoop skirt, and now please come closer to me. So here is my hoop skirt, here is my place, there is my place. And when you've achieved something, imagine your boss is deaf in both ears. Show them with your hands. Go and tell them. No, your bosses won't see for themselves. We always had the demand on mum and dad that they should know for themselves how we are doing. Unfortunately, we transfer that to the relationship later on. No, your boss can't see it. No, your boss can't read minds either. You can apply everything I say about relationships in the workplace. One-to-one relationships at home. I've never seen anyone having a problem at work and at home. It's either here or there. No, your boss doesn't read minds, just tell them. And she did it. Lo and behold, what then happens to the woman who annoyed her? What do you think? Tell me. So she starts talking about what she's doing, and she does really well. She does a lot more than her colleague, and she says it and she gets involved, and she talks about it in meetings, she makes flip charts, shows the boss, she has appointments. What happens now to the lady who annoyed her? What do you think? Come on, you're my first student here, let's go. She won't annoy her anymore. Why? Because everything this lady does, being loud, it bypasses her. That is no longer on her radar. We say, we have it on the radar, but actually it's more like a huge screen. It is no longer hers, it's no longer hers. And that is the subject of shadows. She fully understood that. The shadow wants to be integrated. C.G. Jung, I adore him. He came just after Sigmund Freud.
I marked every quote in here and thought, oh, the wisdom.
I love his practical psychology, and he was never really seen for what he has done. It was really, really practical. He says, I'd rather be whole than good. Many people exclude parts so they are good. The good person only does this and that. Do you remember there was a scandal from a chairman of the Jewish community? So that's not racist or something, but he was especially good. I don't want to mention his name, but he was particularly good, and he exemplified virtue until there was the scandal that he did anything but exemplify virtue. And that has nothing to do now whether it's a Jewish association or a German or sovereign citizens who are all about friendship and comradeship. The more you try to maintain virtue and maintain an image, the more you have to lock the rest in the shadows. And that's why authentic people who have integrated everything, who don't have to hide anything. Authentic people are those who feel where their lives are taking them. You can only feel that when you don't have it in your luggage. Such an excluded part is like a ball and chain. And you pull that after you.
We all actually have that all the time, that we're actually trying to get rid of this ball, right?
Yes, but you have to look at it first, and the ball is yours. It belongs to you. It's to be integrated, please. And Rutger Dahlke brought up another interesting aspect that I wasn't even familiar with before. He said that if the parents are extremely hostile to pleasure, that's how he interpreted it. I'm still confirming whether we can say it that way. Then someone will carry your shadow for you. And that is also the principle. The shadow is shown to you in an exaggerated form. Otherwise, you won't even notice. So the colleague who was so loud, someone is showing you in an exaggerated form, and otherwise you won't notice. And he says drug addict children are the white shadow. They are the exaggeration of the enjoyment that society excludes. An interesting approach. In other words, in an exaggerated form, so to speak, they represent the white side of the shadow. Of course, drug use is crap, that's out of the question. But I'll give you another shadow topic. I was on a training course in Zurich and I had employees with me. And next to me sat an older employee, and then some higher person comes along, but a young person from this event comes in like this. He's slim, he's thin, he's wearing a silver suit and a red tie. Well, I mean, your red tie is really nice. Red tie, he walks in like this. And he's completely conspicuous, and he walks in like that, and he's just parked his Porsche in front of the hotel in a no parking zone. My employee said, "Look at him. What is he doing? Well, look at that. And his car is in the no parking zone. And who drives a red Porsche anyway? Look at him. How old is he even?" And I thought, if you only knew what you're telling me about yourself, what annoys us about others. When we have a great annoyance, the other one is like this or that. Or also for the viewers, sometimes it is like that. Someone on the street annoys you, like this young man annoyed the employee. I just put two and two together and I knew what she would like to do someday. She would also like to show herself. She would also like to be at the front one day. She would also like to attract everyone's attention. That was what annoyed her so much when she saw this young man. So tell me what annoys you about others. And one can conclude who you are yourself. What do you have to catch up on yourself? The soul keeps knocking, says, "Hello, Alex, this is still something you have to work on. There's something you're hiding away. Maybe you should finally dance on the table. I know the Swiss don't do it that easily, but maybe it belongs to you and you should do it. Okay, this time I have no success as a soul. Well, okay, I'll let someone walk into the studio for you and they'll dance on the table for you. There you go. Then you get angry and now you know more about it. You would then ask right away, why do I have to endure this? What is it showing me? Do we still have time for a personal example?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Another personal example, I have a wonderful husband who supports me in doing this. It could also be that he says, "What are you doing again?" And that has to be over at some point. And you have to live a relationship. We don't need to talk about it and God knows what. We're in Tenerife in a rental car. We drive on a pedestrianised street. He drives very, very carefully. And what happens? He drives a maximum of 30. And what happens? One of these young people walks. A cell phone zombie right in front of the car. He has to brake hard and he works in construction sites. He's an architect, so he blares out all swear words that he comes up with. And the next time he'll let them hit the car, and then let's see. When he was finished, I've also learned I'm not that smart aleck right away. You don't want that. He's upset and you have to be on your partner's side always. Then he calmed down. I said to him, "Can I ask you something? When you look at the young man, could it be that he has something you lack?" He knew right away. He said yes, he doesn't care, he just takes his place and his rights, and I'm always nice first and see what the others need and then I see what I need. And I should change that now. And I thought, what a man. I mean, he's my partner. You don't want to be taught by a partner. I respected and appreciated him so much for his openness. But now the question is, what happens to the cell phone zombies that run in front of the car? Two possibilities. Either they no longer come because you no longer attract them. Your soul says we no longer need these protagonists. Or they are there, but he just says, was there something there? He no longer sees them. The one who ran in front of the car showed him this topic, what is in the closet and what urgently needs to get out. And he's that kind of person too, like the one who puts everything aside. He's also handicapped by the fact that it's always too nice. And then he's too nice again, and then the clients still want that, and they want this, and they want that. And that costs you anger too. That's always a bit of anger, and the bit of anger accumulates and it settles down as sediment, and it harms you. Hidden anger and unseen and unprocessed anger. It's like hydrochloric acid for your feet, and that hurts physically, and those people come to me, and I see people who then have an autoaggression problem. I'll tell you that in the next episode.
Interesting. Thank you very much, dear Beate. And you, dear viewers, you now understand why I said in the introduction that this is the premier class. It is really when you learn to understand these connections, or just such outbursts of anger, as now in the last example, learn to appease because simply the problem is done. This shadow has been accepted, and we learn something from this situation. Then I think that's just really great. Sometimes you have to get a little bit older, get a little bit wiser to see things like that. But this season, we want to show you now, from young to old, that we can deal with it. Nobody else shows it to us. In this sense, thank you very much and see you next time.